Hey guys, so I have seen this tag going around. I actually believe it might have been Dawn Michelle. Yes, it was Dawn Michelle at Boho Tarot that started it, and I know she did one of these last year. It was a dex that I want to work with more this year, and I really like this tag because it's kind of utilizing what we have and kind of going deeper into the decks that we might have in our collections and things like that. So I've really been thinking about this a lot lately, just trying to be more mindful and discerning. And Thea at Garden Goddess Tarot made a really good point of the fact that once you buy something, it's yours and it's your responsibility on what you do with it. Like, you brought it into the world for, say, like that particular copy, and carbon footprints and things like that. It just, I've been thinking. Anyway, so that's kind of what I wanted to do this video on. I just wanted to share a handful of just tarot decks. I can do an oracle one as well, but I actually ended up pulling a lot of tarot decks off my shelf, and I was like, I should probably stick with tarot decks, for this video at least. So you'll probably see them lined up along the sides here because, to be perfectly honest, the table that I'm filming on just does not have enough space. Because I am actually using my kids' like fold up Mickey Mouse table. So the first one that we have here is the Marielle. And this isn't necessarily to familiarize myself with this deck. It is honestly, I'm sorry about the glare, it is honestly more so just to really embrace it more. I've talked about this deck on my channel a few times, and it's just one of those ones that I actually avoided for a long time because I didn't want it. I thought it was creepy, and then it literally stalked me. When I say that, I mean I kept getting friends be like, hey, I'm getting rid of this deck and I will give it to you if you want. And I was like, no, I don't want it. And then finally I was like, all right, apparently I need it. And it is really incredible. By far one of my favorites. Very, very different from your Rider-Waite-Smith. But if I remember correctly, it kind of pulls from all three systems. I have the second edition that's got like the black edging on it. But yeah, I love this deck. It just goes so deep, and I love that. It's what I needed, and I have used it quite a bit, but I just see myself using it a lot more this year, especially since I am in a Hanged Man year and an Empress year. We'll see what happens here. So the next one is a new one in my collection, and it's not so, again, this is another one, even though it's new, it's not so much that I'm familiarizing myself with it, it's just because I am so damn excited to have this deck. I talked about this a ton when it was going on Kickstarter. I was able to back it, which I was surprised with because it went live like shortly around the time that my husband had lost his job last April, and I still was able to back this, and it actually came to me, I think, in late December, if I'm not mistaken. But this is the Pacific Northwest Tarot, and I know if you have been following me for a while, you know that I am from the Pacific Northwest. I love this deck so much. Oh, bumping the camera. It's funny because how I came across it is I actually saw a picture of the backs on Instagram, and I was like, ooh, what are those? They look like Washington. It's got this beautiful forest green edging, and yeah, sure enough, I was like, what? This amazing artist is making a Pacific Northwest Tarot, and I love his art. I think it's beautiful. He did a really remarkable job. In the guidebook, it actually goes through each of the flora and fauna and what they are. For instance, like the Asian beetle is the devil. If you've grown up in the Pacific Northwest, you know how much of a pain in the ass these things are. But yeah, it's home. It is so home to me, and it makes me so, so happy. Like rainier cherries for the Nine of Pentacles. Oh, I could gush. I could gush. I could gush many, many times. But yeah, I'm gonna find probably the hydrangeas. These were growing in my yard growing up. So were rhododendrons. And, you know, forest fires for the tower. It's so well done. I love it so much. It's home. It is home. And I don't live in the Pacific Northwest anymore. I am in Minnesota now because, you know, I met my husband on a video game 15 years ago, and here we are. But I miss Washington, and I will be going back a couple of times this year to visit my family, but it's hard. I miss it every day. So this touched my heart. I'm so, so thrilled for this deck. Whoop, bumping the camera. So the next is me moving the camera and my light and messing up my whole setup. The next is the Spirit Keepers Revelation Edition from Annabelle Wen. I did a whole video on this, but I just will quickly share with you all. I actually have a couple of cards from the first edition in here because my friend sent it to me. Okay, this is something that I think is so cool. I got number 10. So Annabelle Wen is an incredible person in the tarot community. Author, reader, artist. She is remarkable. This woman is a walking brain, and I adore her videos too. She's just a wonderful human. But she came out with a colored version of her tarot deck, and the last two editions that she had, I had not been able to get. So when this one came out, I had pre-ordered it, and it came to me in October, I think actually right around the time that I had my hysterectomy. So I was a little laid up from surgery, but I was constantly flipping through these cards and trying to take everything in. Either way, I really, really want to dive into this deck. I know that there's a lot to it, but I am looking forward to taking that journey. I did purchase the big guidebook too, as well as the journal. So I will be diving into that this year. The next is the Gentle Tarot. I really, really love this deck as well. You're probably going to hear me say that from all of these, but this is by an indigenous creator out of Alaska. And I am all for nature decks. They speak to me. This one, again, has a lot of Pacific Northwest vibes. But I just love how well this was done. I'm trying to figure out how to position my hands here. I love her style. I love the different takes that she had. I love how empowering this deck is. It really speaks to me, especially, again, for a lot of the work that I am trying to do within myself. And yeah, it just, oh, look at that Six of Wands. It just does something for me. It really does. And the guidebook, again, is really remarkable. We have some talented people in this community, seriously, guys. We really do. We have some amazing artists, writers, incredible people. And whenever I can support them, I happily will. That being said, you know, when it comes to tarot decks, they definitely have to speak to me. They have to have a purpose. They have to be, once again, bumping the camera. They have to, you know, they have to have a place in my specific practice. And that's not a knock on anybody whose decks don't. It's just we are all individuals and things speak to us the way that they speak to us. Anyway, so this is the Majestic Earth Tarot. I think this one's out of print right now. I believe this is by the same person who did the Tarot of Delphi. I'm not a fan of the deck. I have to be honest, it's just not my thing. But the Majestic Earth is. Just because, again, I love nature decks. I want to do a whole video on my deck collection this year. Video series, I should say. But what I will be doing is I will be doing these by sort of theme, I guess, video by video. But yeah, I love this deck. These are the court cards. It is just so immersive, and it really takes you into the wonder of nature. Each of these paintings were picked, and I think it was really well done. I really do. So this one definitely was... I'm not one for decks that are like historical or period decks. It just doesn't do it for me. But this one, considering that it was landscapes, that's what did it for me. And I actually like the keywords. I like the elemental symbols, the associations on all of them. I do think this one was really, really well done. That's really pretty. The face in the clouds. But yeah, so that is the Majestic Earth Tarot. I've had it since I think the summer. And I have been enjoying working with it, but I just want to work with it more and get to know it a little bit more. Okay, the next is one of the newest decks in my collection. I actually got this for my birthday from my husband. This is the Somnia Tarot. I wanted to pre-order this, but I couldn't at the time, so it was really fun to be able to get this for my birthday. I have also ordered the book. It's on its way to me. And the other thing about this deck is I actually modified it. So it's not a big modification, but I got it in and I just was like, this needs to be borderless. I don't generally make a big fuss about borders, if I'm being perfectly honest. It's still in order to. But this one just needed it. I don't know. To me, in order for it to speak to me, I feel like it needed it. Now, here's the thing about when you trim this deck. The backs are going to look a little funky. I make my peace with that. I'm okay with it. I'm okay with imperfections. And, you know, it's for me. But I'm really looking forward to diving into this deck. I'm really looking forward to exploring the guidebook. I can't wait to read it. I can't wait to read with this deck. This is a very fascinating deck. It is a photography deck, which I am a photographer, but I'm picky about photography decks for some odd reason. But this one definitely spoke to me. And essentially, the photographer used a lot of his dreams and nightmares as the inspiration for each of the cards, which is really fascinating to me. So I cannot wait to dive into this one for sure, and I really do like that I trimmed it, because I just think that it works even if the backs look a little funky. Like, I'm okay with it, honestly. So that is the Somnia Tarot. The next one is the other newest one in my collection that was also a birthday present. This is the Future Ancestor Tarot. This is from an indigenous creator in Seattle, of all places. I actually have quite a bit of tarot decks that the creators are from the Pacific Northwest. Sometimes I'm thinking I want to do a video on all that. It's kind of slippery. But yeah, this one I was curious about, and I have not worked with it yet. So we'll see where this goes. But I actually really do think that this one's going to be very healing, especially for ancestor work, and I'm trying to do a lot of ancestral healing, and that was sort of the point behind this deck. So it even says, during a period of deep grief, this creator had embarked on a journey of healing through creation of this body of work. Each card was collaged using sumi ink and pieces of nature that surround where they live in Seattle. These cards are a gentle reminder to live in gratitude for the steps our ancestors took to get us here where we are. And I just think that concept is very beautiful. So I always keep the little notes and cards that I get whenever I order from somebody. But now I'm struggling to get it back in there. So yeah, that is the Future Ancestor Tarot. I'm probably going to fight with the tuck box. Let's see how this goes. Yep, totally fighting with the tuck box. Oh, maybe it's going to Nope, it's not. All right, we'll just set it over there for now. It'll be fine. All right, so now we're into the last three decks here. So this one is actually was an eBay find. I found this on eBay for $20. $20. And I used to have the Ancestral Path Tarot. I had the newer version where the cards are massive, like the size of my hand, and I have long fingers, massive. And I didn't like them. I like that they're borderless, but I couldn't. They were too big. So I actually ended up picking up or finding a vintage copy. This is printed in the early 90s of this deck on eBay. And as you can see, the tuck box is pretty beat up at this point. Actually, it's remarkable that it even looks as good as it does. But yeah, this one does have borders on it, and I actually like them a lot. And I like the size of the cards. So, yeah, this deck is fantastic. In fact, it has one of my favorite Two of Swords ever, which I think is in the back of the deck here. There it is. That is my favorite Two of Swords. One of them. The other one's in the Runic Tarot. But, yeah, I really liked this version of the deck. Hopefully I can track down the guidebook, but it is also out of print. It's the bigger guidebook. And that's a little frustrating, but I'm sure I'll be able to track it down at some point. I tracked this down and it did not cost me an arm and a leg. It actually was the price of your standard like mass market deck. So I was really happy to find that on there. If you ever want to try and find some more unusual tarot decks, always check out eBay. So this is the Tabula Mundi deck. This is the only Thoth deck that I have, really. I have not gone into Thoth much yet, and I would like to explore it a little bit more. I liked this more than Aleister Crowley's Thoth, if I'm being perfectly honest. Actually, these are the extra Deacon cards. It came with a little expansion pack. This was actually a copy of a friend of mine had. She ended up sending me this because I only had the pocket size version, and my eyes suck. So I still have the pocket size version. I probably will get rid of it, just because I can't see it. But this is one of the best High Priestess cards ever. It's so pretty. But I really like the artwork in this a lot more than the traditional Thoth. I would like to get a copy of the traditional Thoth, Aleister Crowley's Thoth, at some points, just to work with it and understand it. It's much like owning a copy of the Rider-Waite-Smith to me, which I do read with the Rider-Waite-Smith. My favorite is the Centennial. It's the only copy that I have. But yeah, I put it back in order. I know my friend had sent it to me and it was all jumbled up because she had used it, but I put it back in order. And I'm kind of looking forward to diving into that one too, just because it's an avenue I haven't gone, and I'm curious. And then we are in our last deck, which is the Black Tarot. This deck is just interesting to me. It's kind of a trip, really. And again, I'm actually really surprised that I ended up getting this deck, but it's not that expensive. I think I got it for like $20. But yeah, it is bizarre, rather abstract. I'm hoping that the glare isn't awful. This one's really hard to keep the glare off, but yeah, it is a very unusual deck. But I feel like it kind of explores a little bit more of the subconscious. At least it does for me whenever I read with it. And I think that would really help with navigating some shadows that I need to work with this year. So, trying to figure out that glare there. There we go. Oh. So that is the Black Tarot. And that is what I have for you guys of decks I want to work with. I could do an oracle version. If you guys want me to do an oracle version, let me know. I just ended up picking out a lot of them, and I was like, oh, I don't want this video to be forever and ever. Having trouble with the tuck box again. Oh, at least this one behaved. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video of me rambling on about some of the decks that I want to work with this year, but there we are. So, yeah, thank you for watching, guys, and as always, blessed be.